doggy. Today we've got Mum's Corolla in the shed. It's just in for a service, basically, among other bits and pieces of stuff. But yeah, this video is going to be a service. It's a 2014 model, accent. So I'll give you a bit more detail when I can remember it. Okie dokie. So it's time to do a service on the Corolla. So I've pulled the cover off the engine. There's just these little push clips. It sits down and pushes down onto these 4 clips. So that just pops up, pull it out of the way. You can see the last person who's done the service has spilled a bit of oil and hasn't cleaned it up. We'll clean all that up. So basic service wise, we're going to do the oil filter, air filter, cabin filter, checking fluids, checking the suspension and the brakes. I've already gone over the brakes. The rear pads are getting pretty low, but rear brakes don't brake anywhere near as much as the front brakes, so that's all right. So we've got a coolant reservoir. There's a little gauge on the side there, so it's above the full mark, so that's well and truly fine. We've got our washer additive, so we'll just top up the washer bottle. This is your brake reservoir, so the brake fluid reservoir. So you've got to make sure, so on the side here there's actually a gauge here, so that's above the maximum mark. Not a big issue, but because the pads on the front are quite new, as the pads wear down, that reservoir will drop. Okay, so when I do the rear brakes, I'm going to have to draw a bit of that fluid out, because it'll when you compress the pistons back in, then the fluid comes back up here. All right, so we've got to make sure that when we do the rear pads, because this is already overfilled, we don't spill it out over here, and the brake fluid itself is very corrosive, so all the paint around that area, if it spills onto it, you need to wash it off really quickly with water, otherwise it will eat through the paint, bubble the paint up. All right, so I'll show you where the sump plug is to drain the oil, and what we're going to use. This is the air filter box. This one's pretty simple. There's 2 clips. A clip on that side, clip on the inside here. Okay, and then you can just lift it up, slip it out, and pull the filter out. Okay, this car does get serviced pretty regularly. That's a dirty filter, so we'll replace that. Okay, let's change this air filter now. You see here, there's these 2 little recesses on the other side here in the air box. There's these little bits here, so that needs to go over those. And there's a square edge on the filter as a reference, so that goes to this corner here. All right, so it just slips in like that. Top goes back on, job done. All right, so air filters are very simple to do. Oil filters and fuel filters are a different story. We also have a cabin filter. So cabin filter, you pull the glove box out and there's a panel in there, so I'll show you how to do that in a sec. So we're going to replace the cabin filter, otherwise known as pollen filters in some circles. So glove box comes down, you've got the little retainers on the sides, so you push them in on the side, and then the glove box is going to try and swing down. Now we've got this little damper here that just slips off. Okay, glove box falls down, pops off the back clips. Okay, so it clips on here, just pushes in, pretty simple. Now this little panel here is the cabin filter, so we'll pull that off. We've got this filter in here, we'll slide that out. You can see it is pretty dirty, doesn't look like it's been done in a while. Very simple. New filter. Okay. Slip it in. and put the cover back on, and just reassembly of the glove box. Alright. Alright. Make sure that's back on. Get the glove box, line up the two clips on the bottom. That's it. Slip this back on, little damper, and then the whole thing just pushes in. That's it. Done. Okay, got a few clips here to remove. This one here and this one here. One of them's missing. Okay, that comes down, and then this panel here slips down like so, and that allows access for servicing. It even says on here, for service. Toyota's not silly, they actually have, there's a little arrow, I don't know if you can see it there, points to a hole, and that's what that's for. So you can put your clip back in through this slot to hold the panel back so it doesn't get in your way while you're dropping your oil. A lot of manufacturers do think about servicing, so keep that in mind. Now we've got that down, this is our sump plug, and this is our oil filter. So we'll take this out with a drain pan underneath. All the oil will drain out through there. We'll catch it in the drain pan, and then we'll take this cap off the back, and there's a cartridge filter that goes in there. We'll swap that out. When you're dropping the oil, you want to make sure it's warm, not hot, but warm, so that it's more viscous. That's it, pull the sump plug out, we'll give that a clean up. Put it on this little tray there for now. Let the oil drain out. Once the oil's drained out, then we'll pull the oil filter cap off and change out that filter element. Okay, so with the rear seat out, we have this access panel here, and that is where our fuel filter needs to go in. So this is where the sender unit is. So we'll pop that up and show you how to change out the fuel filter, which is an in-tank fuel filter. Alright, so this cover just seals down. Alright, you can see it has been replaced at one point because they've butchered all this seal here, and the ends were bent. Probably be able to see that in the photo, got the previous video anyway. So our easiest thing to do is we need to disconnect all the fuel lines and everything off it. This collar here just turns and the whole thing comes out. Okay, so the breathers, that one's got a clip on it, that one's just pushed. So these fuel connectors, there is actually special tools that go into the front here, and they pop up the clip to release them, to take them out. All right, it's something you don't want to break, because if you break that, it's under high pressure, and it's going to end up with a fuel leak. Okay, so if you don't have the tools, definitely get the tools. They're very, very cheap. Don't attempt it if you don't have the tools. It's going to cost you a lot more in replacing clips and fuel lines and everything, and fuel leaks, than anything else. All right, so I'm actually going to get a vacuum cleaner and clean a lot of this stuff up. I definitely don't want anything getting into the fuel tank. And so I'll change everything out when it's out of the car. So we'll undo this wiring harness here, just a push clip, pull that out, and then I'll need two fans. Anyway, so pull that, disconnect that, pull these off, get my tools, pull this out, pull the whole thing out, and then I'll show you on the bench how to change it out. Okay, so I've used my tool, just so you can see here. I don't know if it focuses. So this clip here slips back. All right, so the tool basically goes in, pushes this up, and then allows this to pop back. Okay, so it's not necessary to take it all the way off. This one here, the little yellow collar slides back. All right, so this one here can just pull up, this one here pulls out, and I've already taken off the 2 breathers and the electrical harness. And then once I get them disconnected, I'll rotate this collar, pull the whole thing out. Now that's unscrewed. Got to remember the orientation of it because it has to connect to the same wires, obviously. And then keep in mind that when you pull this out, there is fuel in the tank. It is a fuel filter, and it only just fits through the opening. So it can be a bit difficult. You don't want to damage anything. Okay, so there's a fuel tank. There's inside the fuel tank. If you've never seen that before, here's our fuel filter assembly. Okay, so changing out our filter assembly. So I've emptied out the reservoir, and so basically this container fills up with fuel, petrol, gasoline, and then gets sucked up through here. All right, so we need to change out quite a lot of this. This whole slide mechanism that clips on there, okay, and then the filter itself down the bottom there clips into the tank. So this here is how your fuel gauge operates. As it goes up, it's got a carbon strip there, and it changes the resistance through that carbon strip. So that's firstly no resistance, which is full, and then down to empty. Okay, so this is designed to sit right on the bottom of the tank, and it's spring loaded. So when you put it in, you'll actually have spring tension to push all the way down. All right. So I've got a couple of little clips here. Okay, this pops out of that pipe base reservoir. All right, and then you have these clips here that need to push together to pull this bracket off. And then there's these clips here that clip it into the base of the pump. All right. Get a screwdriver. So anyway, we've got electrical connections that need to get transferred over. The whole insides of the pump need to go in. All right. So that pops off. Got new O-rings that come with it as well. So one's the seal for the top, and the other one's the seal for the pump. Okay, so this whole section here gets carried over. The pin connectors here need to come out. Pretty simple. They only go in one place, so it's not a problem to pull it all apart. I'll start putting it all back together. Okay, and then this whole thing clips onto these stainless steel brackets through this slide. Pull our cables out, a little bit more fuel there. That just pops off like so. And then we've got this assembly here. A little bit tricky, I'm trying to do it just with my hands so it's a bit easier for you to see. That would obviously be a lot easier with a tool. A screwdriver or something. Let's try a knife. This last clip's under a bit of tension because I've undone the other ones already. Okay, and then the pump assembly comes out now. I'm going to need a tool to get in there. There's a little tab on the side here, need to push the tab in so you can pull the electrical connector out. Okay, electrical connector is disconnected, and then this will all get this bit done too. Sorry. I have to trim my fingers at the same time, mate. Alright. Now that all comes out. Okay, there's your fuel pump. Alright, there's a one-way valve. So the valve's going to need to change out. And you can see inside there's where the O-ring's sitting. Okay, O-ring goes on top of here. So we'll just put the O-ring on here and then feed that back into the new fuel pump housing. You don't want to damage it. Yep, just like that, should rotate out. Don't lose any of the components. It's going to go back in here. Just like so. We'll get our new O-ring for the fuel pump. It's going to go on here. Okay, this slips in and can only go one way because this all needs to line up. It's just a matter of snapping it all together. Okay, so now our pump's back in. We can plug that back in. That can go back in the reservoir. And then this can get clipped on. Make sure you line up the spring. And this just basically pushes in. Alright, pretty simple. Connect up our two harnesses, put it the right way, be good. One there, clip it into the cable keeper. You don't want these cables getting pinched. Just neaten this up a bit. Okay. Then we've got our little clips onto here, like so. Goes on the inside with the two tabs on the outside. Like so. Clip it on, clip, clip. And that's it. Put that in the keeper. And there we are. It's all operational. So we just need to refit it to the car. We can prepare it by, I'll give this a wipe down. I vacuumed as much stuff off as I could, but cleanliness is next to godliness apparently. Righto, so reinstallation is basically the reverse of installation. Now that's the orientation we require. First things first, we need to get our float in. So we'll put the float in at an angle. Okay, and then our reservoir can go in like so. Make sure all our cables are out of the way. Oh, cables. Fuel lines. And then that's going to sit in pretty much like that. So I need to get all the fuel lines on top so we know that we're not getting pinched, but also to make it a bit easier once we get it in, because once it's in, it's not easy to sort it back out. Just noticed that the old O-ring didn't come with it. I should have noticed that before, sorry. So we'll get rid of this O-ring. Okay, so finally got all this in. This clip was surprisingly super tight. Anyway, it's all on. It's all ready to connect. So we'll plug it in. Okay, make sure that's positively plugged on, and then we can put our cover back on, which has got little divots here that line up. Okay, so line that side up, push it all down, and then I disconnected this seat belt switch as well, just so I can pull that cable out of the way. Okay, so that's it, it's on. Now we can put the back seat back in. I didn't show you taking the seat out, in case you do know, or don't know, sorry. A lot of back seats and little hatchbacks, some of them actually have a hinge at the front and they just tilt forward. Others have these clips at the front, so it's got a little loop and you can push the seat, the front of the seat back. You'll feel the wire rib inside and you can pop it up, okay, out of this little clip. And then there's a locating hoop which just goes in underneath this little hook here. Okay, so you slip the back of the seat in, make sure it's on that hook, make sure all your plugs are out, and then push the two clips back down on the front. So not real hard, can be a bit fiddly. These are the little loops I was talking about that clip into the clips, and this is the stay. So there's a little hook up under the seat which hooks onto that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show this really well, but basically we'll tilt the front of the seat up, try and push this down, make sure we've got our seat belt. So it's very difficult to do one hand. I think it's going to be too difficult to do without someone holding the bloody phone. Oh, maybe not. Okay, so I've got this lined up, tilted up the front of the seat. That's all locked in there now. And then we've just got these two clips. So you can feel, okay, so see where that hook is? got to push the seat towards the back. Try and get the fucking phone in there. Push the seat towards the back to line this up and push it down. Broken nail. Okay, that's in. Give it a hit. Done. Alright. Just got to do the other side now. So just basically lift it up, push it in, push it down. That's clipped in. Alright, seat's back together. A lot harder than it should have been anyway. Alright, so the oil's finished draining. Just that little bit of a drip as it keeps on draining out. So we'll refit the sump plug. It's worth noting that the sump plug has a washer. That washer is a seal. Some of them are soft aluminium, some of them are fibrous, others are copper. This sump plug actually has a magnet on the end of it too, which is great. So if there's any stray bits of metal getting around the engine, it typically gets past the sump plug and that'll catch it, so it doesn't cause damage to your engine. So anyway, check the condition of the washer. Copper washers, it's probably recommended to replace it every second oil change at least. Okay, give this a bit of a wipe off. Refit our plug. Tighten it up. So on this car, this is a 14mm sump plug. They do range. Some of them have Torx type, star type fittings like in the Renaults. Others have Allen keys. Some of them have like a 1/2 inch or a 3/8 inch square drive, so you can put a ratchet straight on it. And then yeah, anything up to a 21mm, pretty much from a 12mm to 21mm, or imperial for different countries, whatever it might be. So there is quite a lot of differences with sump plugs. So yeah, make sure you use the right tool to take it out, and don't over tighten it when you refit it. All right, so it's something that you don't want to leak, but that's why it's got a seal on it. So even some cars I've seen with like a rubber O-ring. So as long as it's sealed, you're all good. Now on to our filter. So these filters, the different types have got different types of tools to remove them. Okay, so some of them have a nut and bolted plate on the back. Others have the filter itself just screws straight in. Hang on, let's turn it around. All right, so I'll restart this so you got a light. Okay, so you can see here, this one here's got all these flat edges on the sides. You can actually buy a specific tool for this filter housing. Okay, if you own the car, I definitely recommend doing it. Trying to see at the same time, yeah. So there's no other internal type fitting. You can use Stilson's pipe wrenches, the likes. You just have to be really careful because squeezing it too hard can damage it, and that's why there's the square drive on the outside. So there is filter tools available for these. Some of them have that square drive, some of them have notches where it sits down past here. Okay, so plenty of different tools available. If you own the car, as I said, just buy the right tools. It's not worth potentially damaging the filter housing and just trying to change out a filter. All right, so in saying that, I'll show you a few different filter tools. Okay, so I've got two main filter tools that I use. One of them being just a compression style. All right, so the filter goes in. As you turn your handle, it compresses on it and pulls tight. Okay, I had one with a rubber belt on the inside. The rubber belt kept on slipping, and then it was just smooth and it never gripped again. So this one here's got these divoted sections. They tends to work pretty well. This is a scrap type filter. All right, I've actually made a strap type filter just out of an old socket, and and a bit of pipe. I welded the socket to the pipe and cut a slit in the pipe, and then used an old ratchet strap. This is an actual filter tool, filter strap. You can get the same thing as a chain, and you can get this with a chain as well. They're for bigger like trucks and that sort of thing. So they're not going to work on this type of filter, unfortunately. This one here doesn't go tight enough, and this one here is too big and cumbersome to fit in that little spot. So this one really does need the right tool, or I'm going to give it a go with a standard old pipe wrench, slip joint pliers, and we'll see how we go. Okay, I did manage to get it with the pipe wrench. It's very tight, probably arguably too tight. So this is my mum's car, but because she lives a few hours away, I don't tend to do much servicing for it. Alright, now we've got that pretty well loosened off. We'll move our pan underneath, because when we pull it out, it will be oily. We don't really want that all over the driveway, so on the pan there's a little post here. That's an oil filter drain post. So you can stick your oil filter on there and let it drain out into the pan. Okay. I'll let that drain out a bit, and then grab the new filter and swap it over. Okay, this has been drained out for a little bit now, so I pull the filter out. So that's the filter cartridge, not much to it. We'll put that on there, let that drain out. This is the cap. So likewise, I'll let it drain out a little bit more, and then give it a clean up and put the new filter in. Alrighty, so the filter comes with two O-rings, okay? One O-ring is to go down the bottom there, and the filter slides over and sits on it. The other O-ring is for the filter cap itself. So this black O-ring here, we're going to pull that out and replace it. Okay, there's the old O-ring. The new one's the red one. We'll put that on, slip this other one over here, and put it back on the car. Okay, so out of the way, dry this off a bit. And then now we've got our filter in, O-rings on. Just goes up, screws in. So once it gets onto that O-ring, you will feel resistance. That's good. You know that the O-ring's actually in place and it's going to seal. So I was looking at the specs on this. This is to be tightened to 25 newtons, which is not much more than hand tight. So that's hand tight. I'll nip it up and then we're good to put oil back in it. Righto, so we're ready to put oil in it. So I've given a bit of wipe around the oil cap. Okay, take that off, get it out of the way. Using a funnel is definitely something that should be practiced. Now, the amount of times it's spilled around, that sort of thing, is just, yeah, mental. Anyway, I have to admit I'm 50-50 with it, but anyway. So we've got 5W30 for this little Corolla. It's a full synthetic, so good quality oil from good old Super Cheap Auto. And I think this car takes 4.2 litres or something. So anyway, we'll put about 4.2 litres in it and check it on the dipstick and see how we go. Some oils have handles on the sides, which actually makes it a fair bit easier because you can turn the bottle around so it doesn't glug. You just pour it straight in. Makes it that much easier and quicker and less mess because it's not splattering everywhere with its glugging and stuff. Quick tip, if you do put the bottle in the sun, it'll warm the oil up and it'll run through a bit quicker for you. I haven't done that, so it's taking quite a while to drain through.
Daddy,
Yes, mate.
I found the instructions. I found these
Okay.
but they can pick it up.
Alright. You can ask Mum to build it for you.
No, I want you.
Right, mate. No, then.
You're a fixer.
I am a fixer, sorry mate. Yeah, this bottle doesn't actually have it, but most bottles have got the
Mommy.
fluid capacity on the side. So it'll tell you 1 litre, 2 litre, 3 litres, 4 litres, 5 litres. It's got a gauge on the side as per everything else, but it doesn't have that. So anyway, so we're going to go for about 4.2 litres. So we'll just go down to about here and then we'll check it. You want to be close to the full mark, as close as possible. We'll go a little bit further. And then checking the oil level when the car's on a flat is also another very good practice. So at the moment we've got it jacked up a little bit. So we'll let the jacks down before we check the oil. On lid, good. Okay, car's back on the flat. We've given the oil a bit of time to drain, so there's nothing coming out of the funnel. You let it drain in through the engine and down into the sump because we're measuring the oil level at the sump. So obviously yellow dipstick. Most cars have a yellow dipstick, and we'll look on the dipstick. On the dipstick we have this little knob. Fuck, get in that fucking focus. Okay, oh here we go. That little knob there is our full mark. This little knob here is our low mark. So we need to be between the full and the low mark, obviously as close to the full mark as possible. So we're up most of the way up there. Get it to focus again. Anyway, we'll give that a wipe off, put it back in, put a little bit more in, and see where we're sitting. So we don't want to put too much in at a time. So I'll put a little bit in there, probably about 200 milliliters. So, and there you can see, it's very hard to see, but let's forget this fucking focus. So as it focuses, you can see the oil levels up to here. Okay, so we don't have far to go. So maybe another 100 milliliters. So 100 mils is about 4 ounces, give or take. fluid ounces. Alright, and you can see we're just over the top of the full mark there. Okay, so there's our full mark. You can see it's just over the top of it. So I'm happy with that. We don't want it well over full, but close to that full mark. A little bit above is not going to kill it. Okay, so now we can put everything back together. Before I put the engine cover back on, I'm going to degrease this engine, get rid of all this bits of old oil and stuff around. Alright, that's pretty much it for this little Corolla. All in all here, we've done the air filter, the cabin filter, which is the internal air conditioning filter. We've done a new fuel filter, which gets missed quite regularly. It's not something that has to be done every service, but this car is starting to get a little bit older, so it was definitely time to do that. Oil filter and oil. We've checked all our fluids, checked over the steering and suspension. The only thing I saw was there's a split boot on one of the link pins, which is not critical. The link pin's still fine, but it is going to need replacing. We've checked all the brakes. The brakes are good. The rear brakes are getting closer to needing replacement. Being a manual car, small car, rear, they've probably got another 15 to 20,000 plus Ks on them anyway. So Mum typically services her car every 5,000 Ks, so just going to get another couple of services out of it, so we'll just keep an eye on it. Otherwise, everything else is in real good nick. Tyres are all good. Yeah, so the only other thing I need to do now is I've got to get the bumpers all done, so there's another video on that. We're replacing the front bumper, putting parking sensors in front and rear, and repairing the rear bumper, replacing the tail light. She had a guy back into her and smashed the tail light and damaged the rear bumper, and a little bit of internal damage underneath the bumper, and then had another little mishap and hit the front bumper. Front bumper's been repaired before. I did that and repainted it, but there's a bit more damage on it. So anyway, unfortunately we've had to get a new front bumper, but that's all ready to get painted and get on the car, so I've got to get to that. All right, thank you for watching. Hope you learned something from it, and yeah, just don't be scared to give it a go. It's not real difficult. New cars don't have all the things that need to be greased all the time. Older cars had universal joints and you know, like all your steering, all the tie rod ends and the likes were greasable. New cars don't have that. You can buy greasable components as replacements. For example, the Ranger, I've just replaced all the tie rod ends on that, and they're greasable. We've got greasable shackles on the rear and a few other things like that. So depending on the car, depends on how much is in it, but as far as most new cars, especially compacts, for the most part it's oil filter, air filter, fuel filter every now and then, cabin filter, and then just checking, making sure your coolant and everything's all good. All right, catch you on the next one. Thank you very much.